let's talk a little bit about leadership and specifically within DEA. So one thing I thought was interesting is we've talked about this on numerous occasions. You get to Salt Lake City, and it's not necessarily something you want to do, but you've been put in this position, and I think you do it well. But let's talk about handling an agent who necessarily isn't doing what he should be doing. And without naming names, can you kind of talk about that situation and what you had him do and ultimately made him a successful part of the team, for lack of a better term?
I think one of the things that any supervisor, and I like the word supervisor, and I never like the word manage, because yes, are you managing situations and managing people, but managing almost, to me, what you rightfully said, does not, puts less emphasis on leadership and leading by example. And that was the first thing, is I saw in all my supervisors, all my leaders that I looked up to, is they led by example, and that they never asked their people to do anything that those people did not know that they hadn't done, wouldn't be willing to do, and did do if needed.
Yeah.
And I think that's the complete lack of being hypocritical in asking other people to do things that you wouldn't do, or weren't willing to do, or do things that you told them not to do. I thought that is the biggest. When that happens, you lose all credibility. And really, I think leadership is about credibility. And I remember my first supervisor, Dave Richardson, who was, he was a Marine, former Marine, long time. I think he had 25 years in DEA, maybe 30. He was the first agent to get an age waiver over 57. And he based it on one of my cases, so I kind of was glad on that. But he was a wonderful, wonderful just first-rate, and a wonderful human being. He cared about us on a personal level, and what I said before was he allowed us to fall forward, to fail falling forward. Mm-hmm. I felt we had our back, but he was not afraid to call us out if we weren't up to snuff, or we were making dumb mistakes, or things like that. But Dave, I really looked up to Dave in a great way, and saw him as an example of being a supervisor and a leader that I aspired to.
So do you think, let me ask you this then, leadership in general, because you have this background with the PJs and then you become a supervisor with DEA, do you think that you would have been the supervisor, the leader that you were, had you not had, like Dave, as a mentor? Do you think you still had that innate ability to be that? Yeah. So do you think you had that in there? Or do you think that just, you did have it in there, but because you also had good examples, that just made you even better?
Yes, I think, having good examples, and quite frankly, I had probably the worst supervisor you could ever have.
Okay.
And the worst one that I've seen by far in DEA, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I had it at the time, but in some ways it was fortunate, because in seeing what not to do, it was every bit as informative of seeing what to do. So when you have those two together, you see the destructive power of what a person that has just the opposite of the traits that I had described for Dave had who was a supervisor, and you see what effect it had on me and other people I worked with. Mm-hmm. Then you are very cognizant of never, hopefully, ever,
Yeah, but I'm really curious about leadership qualities in general, military, DEA, corporate structure, or whatever else. Do you think leadership is something that's innate in somebody, or do you think it's something that can be learned?
I think it's both. I think it's I don't think it's innate, but I think it is the ability to be logical but empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has to do with caring for your people, caring about your people, and caring about how you can motivate them on their terms to do the job right, not because it's going to give you, my whole career, I could care less about getting credit for anything. It really was not ever on my radar. I didn't care about medals in Pararescue. I didn't care about getting honors or credit in DEA, and most of the people I was around were the same way. It was about the people around you thinking that you were a good agent or you're a good supervisor or you're a good page aide. That's the only thing that I cared about. And the mission. It was about the mission. It was about doing the mission and getting the mission done.